episode of the Deals for Dentists podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Eric Block. And through these podcast episodes, I'll be interviewing dental professionals and companies and aim to inspire, entertain, and educate you on the best tools and technologies out there. And my goal is to help make your practice and career more profitable, efficient, and most importantly, more enjoyable. And today I'm joined by Dr. Chrystle Cu. Chrystle, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Eric.
So Dr. Chrystle Cu practices general dentistry in San Francisco Bay Area, and she is a grad of the University of the Pacific, class of 2008, and is the co-founder of Cocofloss. So Chrystle, first of all, this is the first time we've met, and I said I have to find out what is going on with Cocofloss because I was at the Chicago Midwinter meeting. And there was this booth that was like a normal small size booth. It wasn't one of these huge, shine sized booths. And there was this buzz, there was this line, and it had these cool neon lights, and it turned out to be Cocofloss. And then one of my hygienists was talking about this awesome floss, and she said it's Cocofloss. So I said, I have to find out what's going on here. So thank you so much for joining us. And just tell me a little bit about your story and like how you became a dentist and, the idea behind Cocofloss.
Yeah, so I'm a general dentist, and I guess I first became a dentist inspired by my mom, I want to say. I went to college, majored in chemistry, really loved the sciences, and I knew I really wanted to help people and care for people, but I hadn't really found what I wanted to do with it until I decided to join my college's pre-dental club. And that again was inspired by my mom. So I joined my college's pre-dental club, and we went out to elementary schools in suburban Boston and taught kids how to brush and floss their teeth. And I had so much fun doing it that I decided to apply to dental school. So I didn't decide to do it until my senior year of college. And I was a little bit late to the game of my applications, but thankfully got in. And that's how I started. I finished dentistry at the age of 26.
And University of Pacific, that's a 3-year program, correct?
Exactly, yeah. So I kind of went into it with not a lot of forethought because I didn't expect to get in that year. I applied so late. And then I graduated from college in June, and all of a sudden in July, I'm in this really intense dental program. Yeah, it was really intense, but it was great, of course, in retrospect. And
it's got to be more intense than a 4-year program. I went to Nova, which was, the standard 4 years, but cramming all of that into 3 years must be super intense.
Yeah, the long days and nights. I'll never forget that at the end of our first quarter, our finals week, a normal week of 5 days, we had 10 exams, 10 finals in that week. And it was the first time in my life that I had that I'd slept so little. I think I pulled 2 all-nighters, and I feel really ashamed to say that, but anyways, thankfully I made it through and I'm still alive, but that was probably one of the hardest weeks of my life.
Oh, I'm the same way. I need my Z's. I can't pull an all-nighter. I need to be, have some sleep. But I was also late in deciding about dentistry, and I actually took a year off and took the DATs and physics and some other classes that I had to take. And I taught tennis. That was like my year after college. Nice. And then applied and got into Nova. But so I know the feeling of, trying to get everything done and get the applications in, and it's a lot of stress.
Yeah.
So you were practicing dentist, and then where did the idea of Cocofloss come from?
So the first, I want to say 5 or so years in practice, I was doing a lot of my own hygiene, both working with my mom and also working as an associate in another practice. So I did so much hygiene, and I spent so much time trying to educate my patients on, oral care and brushing and flossing. I realized there was this big problem, the fact that people weren't flossing, and yet, here I am just doing these procedures over and over again. I felt like a broken record. Meanwhile, my practice had grown so much, and I got so busy that, I would diagnose caries or tell people like, okay, you need a crown. But I didn't have time in my own practice to do these procedures anymore because my practice had grown so much and my schedule was so full. So it was a big conflict because, here I am, I'm trying to help people get healthier. And then, yes, they need treatment, but I actually can't even help them. I say like, okay, you need a crown, like, let's do it. And can we do that in 6 months? And it sounds absurd, right? Like if somebody needs a crown, you probably want to schedule it sooner. But I was literally to the point of like, well, my hygiene schedule is so full. And I was doing my own hygiene at the time, which was the problem, but I would schedule my treatment out really far. I was like, okay, this is like a really big problem. People are getting caries, people are still need their teeth cleaned, and and they need treatment, and I have no time to do it. And people really need to start taking care of their teeth and flossing because, even after I restore these teeth, like if they're not flossing, it's just going to fail anyway. And you know how it is. Like if they're not flossing, it makes it so much harder for us to do our work too. So I just felt so frustrated by the fact that, like the flossing is really for the patient. It's not for me. They come to us saying like, telling us like that, yeah, I know you want me to floss, but I haven't done it. It's like, well, it's really on you. It's really not on us. And then of course we're the ones who have to deal with the bleeding gums when we're trying to do a class 2 composite or trying to, restore their beautiful veneers. The gums get in the way if they're not flossing. So just frustration.
So you saw a kind of a pain point or a frustration with what was out there in the market. And did you start to think, hey, I feel like there's a need for something better out there? Is that kind of what the eureka moment was that's kind of sparked you looking into actually creating your own floss?
Yeah, I kept digging into the why. Like I was like, why is it that people aren't flossing? Why is it that like even after I spent all this time, thinking that I've adequately educated my patient on flossing, they still come back 6 months later and they haven't started? Or, why are we telling people to floss anyway? What is the goal here? So I just kept digging and digging. And I realized there were many problems with floss. One of them is the fact that people never built the habit. Truth is, it's really hard to floss children's teeth. And so if you're not flossing, your children's teeth, they're going to grow up and become adults, and flossing had never become a habit. Flossing also, as it was ineffective. It was pretty ineffective. It's thin, slippery, and flat. You could succeed at making your gums bleed with a thin, slippery, flat floss, but you're not going to really remove plaque biofilm. People also never really learned how to floss. So yeah, they never built the habit. They never learned how to floss. They never understood the importance of it. So the whole idea of flossing felt like such a chore for people. And they could think of a gazillion other things they'd rather do with that minute of their time. And so I realized like, we really need to change the way people think and feel about floss. We need to make the floss better, and we need to create a floss that people actually want to use.
I feel like you've made flossing cool. Like I'm telling you, the booth, there was a line out the door to get to your booth and for people to get the samples of the floss. And they had flavors and really cool, slick looking packaging. Can you tell me what the process was like in developing the material and what it's made out of?
So when I was, again, how do I make floss better? I literally would just source and buy like all kinds of different materials, and I would just order them into my dental office. Different yarns. I would go to the fabric store. I literally, went to the beach and picked up the strands of seaweed at the ocean. I was like, okay, we got to find something better, something that works, something that's more comfortable and more effective. And eventually I found this material, polyester material that was so soft and fluffy and woven in a way that really grabs plaque. I also decided to put coconut oil in the floss because at the time, coconut oil had just become very popular for its antimicrobial properties, and people were willing at the time to swish for 20 minutes with coconut oil in their mouth, coconut oil pulling, but they weren't willing to floss. And, they would come and say like, hey doc, I didn't do the flossing, but I've been coconut oil pulling, check out my plaque. And I would check it out and it would be a lot of plaque. So, unfortunately, from what I've seen in my practice, I wasn't of the belief that coconut oil pulling could replace like physical debridement of plaque biofilm. So I was really set on like, okay, we need a better floss. another part of it was I realized that, again, from just asking my patients, like, what is up with this, like, not flossing situation? Like, why can't you just do it? And I asked them, like, okay, well, where is your floss? Like, why didn't you bring it with you when you went on vacation this summer? Like, which floss are you using? I asked all these questions, and I learned that people, they're very ashamed of their floss. Like, it's not something cool that you want to leave out. It's just clutter. And it just feels like, you don't, that's not something you really care to bring with you. Whereas, like a really beautiful candle, you'd be very willing to, like, have a very beautiful candle sitting out in your bathroom. You might not even use the candle, but you're very happy to leave it on your countertop because it's beautiful. Or things that just bring you joy, things that make you feel happy. You are willing to, like, make the extra room in your suitcase, or take the extra weight with you because you're like, I really like this. I'm taking this with me. So, I didn't want to hear any more excuses about, like, oh, I was on a trip and I didn't want to bring my floss, or, well, the floss is in the medicine cabinet, so I don't see it, so I don't remember to do it. It's like, well, I want that floss to be on your countertop, and I want it to go with you everywhere you go, because I want people to floss every day.
Now, you mentioned about your office, but your family is also involved with dentistry. Did you join your mom's practice, or did you open up your own practice? What was your journey like after dental school?
So it's a little bit of both. When I graduated dental school, I worked part-time as an associate with another doctor. And that was actually where I did the most hygiene, because he would book 16 recare visits for me per day. Of course, I had an RDA, thankfully, to help me polish teeth, but that's still a lot.
Yeah.
And then the other days that I had off, I would work out of my mom's practice, but she had a very unique practice setup. She had 2 operatories, and for the duration of her career, she only used 1 operatory. So she had 1 staff member, 1 operatory, and the second operatory was basically like where she would hang the lead apron. Like, it was completely unused. So when I graduated, she didn't actually have, like, patients, like overflow patients to give me, but she had a chair for me to use. So I used that chair to see my friends, and which turned into my friends of friends. And I had, thankfully, just a lot of word of mouth referrals, and my practice grew from that 1 chair to overtaking my mom's practice. I basically very quickly, had to cut back my mom's schedule, and I took over hers. It got to the point where there were days where I was using both chairs, or I actually got to the point where I was using. I actually had 2 hygienists working in the office, and I would just be in the back. My mom could go play golf, and I would just, like, work in, like, the back, and like, tinker with floss, and have my hygienist working there. So yeah, it was a very unique. I mean, it doesn't make any sense, to have a 2 operatory practice with 2 hygienists and no doctor chair. But that's kind of like how I also had time to work on Cocofloss.
And now, is your mom just like the mom of Cocofloss? Is she wrapped up her dental career?
She still practices. So I've since had to buy another practice, and now we have 5 chairs, thankfully. So she's still practicing. She practices 2 days a week. And she loves being the Cocofloss mom. Everywhere she goes, every CE course she goes to, she very proudly tells other dentists, like, I'm the Cocofloss mom. So I've heard, I guess. I actually don't always go with her to CE, but that's what I hear from other people.
And what about your sister? She's also part of the family business.
Yes, she is. So my sister is the CEO of Cocofloss, and she's my co-founder. And honestly, like, I don't think it would have happened if I didn't get her on boards, because I had been tinkering with floss for years, not getting very far, just being so busy with dentistry, and obviously, like, not doing, yeah, not being very efficient with my scheduling. And so, yeah, it wasn't until my sister decided she wanted to quit her job and start a company, that I was able to, that we were able to get Cocofloss off the ground.
So is that really what sparked, that your sister being able to really focus on this, where, it sounds like you were able to make that pivot where you turned a side hustle into your full hustle. Like, this is your, like you mentioned when we were first talking, your dental practice was your baby, and now you have Cocofloss as your baby. Do you think that was really the rocket ship that, took off from there?
Honestly, I want to say the rocket ship was the dental community, because
Mhm.
when we first started Cocofloss, like we didn't have a lot of money to spend on it. It's a bootstrap business to this day, but we basically took our initial run of Cocofloss and we sent it to all of my dentist friends and hygienist friends. So everyone I knew, even my professors at school, I made sure that all of them tried it. And thankfully they all loved it. And since then they've been telling their patients about it. So the word of mouth, I would say, was the rocket ship. So I have so much to thank the dental community for. But yeah, my sister, she's the brains. I call her the brains because she's brilliant. She's both she's really great with numbers, and she's also an artist. So we designed all of our initial packaging all by ourselves. We basically, built our business on the back of a napkin, and just kind of for fun. And now it turned into a bigger company than my dental practice.
Wow, that is so inspirational and so cool. And if you haven't been on the website, check out the website, or check it out at a conference. But the packaging, the website, it's also slick and really, just like I was saying, you made flossing cool. What other products do you have out there right now? Is there a brush as well?
Yeah, so our COCO brush is also super duper soft. I made it with tapered multi-layer filaments. And what's really cool about it is that we had it tested at a university, and we found that it was 16 times more effective at cleaning in between your teeth than a standard toothbrush, which is pretty amazing. I have to say, I designed it to be good. I didn't know it was going to be that good. I also designed it to be able to reach the areas that people have the hardest time reaching in their mouth. Because, as dentists, we know exactly where people are getting their caries and where they're building up their tartar. But most of the toothbrush designs, I don't even know who's designing these things, because they don't actually help you reach there. A lot of these toothbrushes are just way too fat. How do you get to the 2 or 15 distal buccal? You know what I mean? And then sometimes toothbrushes, they'll be curved in a way that makes it harder for you to brush where you need to brush. You want to brush down here, and the toothbrush is bending the opposite direction. So I designed the handle very intentfully, to be able to reach these areas that I know that people are always having trouble with. And the bristles to be super soft so that we can clean along the gum line and not just the teeth. Because I think also, we know as dental professionals that, all the plaque sits along the gum line, but patients, they just know they're brushing their teeth. They don't know they were supposed to be brushing along the gum line too. And then maybe they're afraid too because their toothbrush bristles are too hard. So ours are super soft and you can clean along the gum line.
Oh, that is awesome. Now, I wanted to wrap things up with, first of all, how do we get a hold of, how do we find out more, the name of the website? But then also, what advice would you give to a young dental professional or just an entrepreneur in general? Someone has an idea like you did. What kind of advice would you give them?
Well, I would say know your why, because I feel like that's what drives everything forward. I've found my problem because I just digging into why aren't people flossing, or why are people getting caries and gum disease? And also for me, it always goes back to why am I doing this? Why did I decide to become a dentist? And why do I love this profession so much? And I personally really like to help people, and I feel like it's my personal goal and my business goals too, to help people achieve their teeth for life, keep their teeth for life. And so that's my why, but everyone has their own why. And as long as you follow that, I think it'll usually steer you in the right direction.
And how do we find out more about Cocofloss?
So our website is cocofloss.com. For dentists, it's cocoflosspro.com. And you can follow us on Instagram at @getcocofloss.
Awesome. Chrystle Cu, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.